Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crafty Christie's Creations Tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how I made this rustic card. It's such a versatile card. It is great for birthdays, Father's Day, or even sympathy cards. Off screen I did a lot of work. I started with a piece of watercolor paper, size 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I ran it through my Cuddle Bug using Darcie's Woodgrain background embossing folder. I also stamped an image of a tree from Stampin' Up's Lovely as a Tree stamp set. I used HeroArts Ombré Lime to Forever Green ink. I love how that gives you just a subtle change in color on my stamped image. I also cut out the tree and another larger brown oval piece from a stamp of oval dies I have. Now, let's get started making this cool card. I am using Tim Holtz Distress ink in Walnut stain to cover my embossed background. Inking up my Ranger blending tool, I am swirling around on my embossing paper, adding ink, starting from the outside, working my way around my piece of paper. And I'm really trying not to leave fingerprints all over the place. And adding extra layers of ink makes it darker and more to my liking. Next, I am going to take a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 note card. It's originally 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and then you fold it at 5 1/2. I am going to glue my emboss page down onto that note card. I'm using Tombow Liquid adhesive. I like to use liquid glue when I work with embossed paper just because it's got grooves on it. I feel like the liquid glue helps gain more access to the paper to really hold it down, especially because this one's got lots of grooves in it. Usually you have to really press that paper on there. And the liquid glue is also more forgiving. So if you don't have it lined up quite right, it dries clear so you can kind of readjust if you need to. So really pressing that piece of embossed paper down into my note card to make sure it sticks. Sometimes I will set that aside and put a stamp brick on top of it and just to really get it in there. So next I've got this piece of pattern cardstock I had laying around. I cut it to about 1 inch thick, and I am just going to glue that end to end across my piece of paper there. So I've got it about 3/4 down to the bottom, and so it'll come out being 4 1/4 inches long. So I adhere that on there again using my liquid glue. It's a little more forgiving, making sure I have that lined up straight on there. Press it down, again, because of that embossing folder, really press that on there, make sure it's good. I will cut off the extra bits later. Next, I've got my 2 ovals, and I am going to adhere those together, make sure they get centered, and that's the hardest part, centering these darn ovals with your stamped image. But I've got some Tombow Runner permanent adhesive that I'm using on this. Don't need a whole lot, but just enough to keep it together. So this one's not quite as forgiving, and you can see I didn't quite get it on there right. Carefully peel those back apart and try again. I usually try to just get half of it down and then get it centered up where I like it and then really press it down. So we're going to try something different I haven't tried before. On the back of this card, I've got some scrap purple hemp rope left over from making necklaces. And we're just going to add this on there for some extra pizzazz. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on the back of those ovals. And with no rhyme or reason, just going to make some little loops and come back and put that back in the tape in the middle there, make another loop. So I'll have 4 loops when I'm all done here, and you know, they don't have to be perfect. It's just for extra interest to the card. So I've got those going on there. Again, I did not measure out this piece of scrap, so if it's not long enough, you've just got some scraps laying around, you can put more than 1 scrap on there. No one's gonna know. So once you get all that on there, make sure it's pushed down in the glue really well, just so it'll stay. And I'm going to use some foam tape here to pop this piece up on my card. That'll also give you room for all that rope to move in the background. So I'm just cutting 2 pieces here, one for the top, one for the bottom. That extra adhesive in the middle will also help stick it to the card. So peel that off, and we're gonna stick that on to our card. And I'm just making sure everything's stuck on there really good. Make sure your loops are where you want them. And then I'm just going to stick that on there kind of towards the bottom to go over that little pattern paper that we had on there too. Make sure that's pressed down good. And there's that. The front, that was so quick and easy. When you do all the prep work ahead of time, this card putting together business gets really easy. Cut off that extra strip, and then all we have left to do is the inside. And then this one, I accidentally didn't pre-cut my emboss sheet where I thought it was. So you'll see me here trimming off a little extra so that the bottom of this one that I'm making actually goes all the way to the bottom of the card. Anyway, so the inside piece is another 4 by 5 and a 4th piece of paper. I'm actually going to leave this one blank since this is such a versatile card. I'm going to leave it blank so that way you can write your own sentiment in there when the time comes. So adhere that on there in the center where you want it. Again, I just used my tape runner by Tombow. Push that on there really good, and then there you go, card done. So there you have it. That's our nice rustic, versatile greeting card. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? So if you're interested in purchasing this card, please visit my Etsy shop. You can see that at http://craftychristiesshop.etsy.com. Like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other Crafty Christie tutorials. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Crafty Christie.